Grandma, what are you reading?
Hi, sweetie. Well, I'm just reading a little bit about the latest psychology journals.
Okay. Actually, um, I was wondering if I could interview for my psychology class.
Okay, that would be great. I would love to tell you about my life.
Okay.
What would you like to know?
Well, let's start off. Where were you born and what was your life like growing up?
Well, I was born on September 16th, 1885 in Berlin, Germany. As you already know, I have an older brother whom I envied. That's because my mother only paid attention to him and just ignored me, so I didn't have the greatest upbringing. I was rejected by both of my parents. My father, who was a captain of a ship, did not approve of my appearance or intelligence. So of course, I grew up feeling lonely, inferior, worthless, and hostile. Because I did not feel accepted, I developed emotional crushes and began a newsletter called a virginal organ for super virgins, where I walked the streets and frequented prostitutes.
Wow, Grandma, that sounds pretty interesting. You must have had a really weird start to life. What did you do when you're older?
Well, even though my father did not approve, I still went on to receive a degree in medicine at the University of Berlin. I eventually married and had 3 daughters, but I became more and more depressed due to my difficult upbringing. I ended up getting divorced and having multiple affairs because I was so desperate to find the love I never received as a child. I was a hopeless romantic. I was constantly searching for that love.
Wow, Grandma, I can't imagine what that's like. Please tell me more.
Well, I studied psychology, but more specifically, I was a psychoanalyst. I turned to Freudian analysis at one point to help me deal with my own problems, but this did not work, so I turned to self-analysis instead. This was because I did not agree with some of Freud's concepts. As I grew older, I turned my attention to younger men for love. After this attempt failed, I resorted to finding happiness in owning a Cocker Spaniel instead.
Oh.
From 1914 to 1918, I took orthodox psychoanalytic training at Berlin Psychoanalytic Institute, became a faculty member, began private practice, and wrote journal articles about female personality.
Oh, wow.
And in 1932, I traveled to America as an associate director of Chicago Institute for Psychoanalysts, and I also taught at the New York Psychoanalytic Institute. And when I was there, I also founded the American Institute of Psychoanalysis, where I am still the leader.
Oh, wow, that sounds so interesting. So tell me, why didn't you agree with Freud?
So I disagreed with Freud's view that personality depends on unchanging biological forces and the preeminence of sexual factors. Some of the concepts of his Oedipal theory, concepts of his libido, and his three-part structure of personality.
Okay.
I also disagreed with his penis envy theory and argued that men are motivated by womb envy instead of women being motivated by penis envy. And this is why men actually feel so superior to women. I focus more on a behavior as a result of parental behavior instead of universal developmental stages, which is what Freud believed in.
Okay. Okay. What other concepts or theories did you develop?
So I developed the concept of basic anxiety, and my own definition of this is the feeling a child has of being isolated and helpless in a potentially hostile world. And this actually results from parental actions such as dominance, lack of protection and love, and erratic behavior. And this is the type of home environment that I grew up in. So basically, it's due to social forces and interactions. And I also propose the idea that the helpless infant is driven by the need to seek security, safety, and freedom from fear in a threatening world. And like I said before, a child's personality is dependent upon social, cultural, and environmental factors.
Okay. So this is what you struggled with as a child, right?
Yes, and I'll explain that to you.
Okay.
So, if any of the child's behavioral strategies becomes a fixed part of the personality, it is called a neurotic need. Now, neurotic people cannot understand their true selves. And I struggled with these things as I had a hard time finding out who I was. And honestly, I still don't even know to this day who I am. So I went on to develop three trends of neurotic needs. The first neurotic need is the compliant personality. And this is one who needs to move toward other people, expressing needs for approval, affection, and a dominant partner. The second neurotic need is the detached personality, which is one who needs to move away from people, expressing needs for independence, perfection, and withdrawal. And finally, the aggressive personality is where one who needs to move against people, expressing needs for power, exploitation, prestige, admiration, and achievement.
So since you had kind of a rough childhood growing up, um, what neurotic need would you fall under then?
Well, I would categorize myself in the compliant personality neurotic need because I was constantly looking for approval and affection.
So it seems like you've accomplished a lot, Grandma. How did your work impact the world?
My work was received generously and contributed considerably to the psychology world. First of all, my work was not pessimistic like that of Freud's. My writings were also very popular once the feminist movement rose to the stage. Most of my work was based on feminism, so this generated a lot of interest. I was able to draw a distinction between the traditional woman seeking identity through a marriage and motherhood and the modern woman seeking identity through a career. I argued that women had the right to make their own life decisions despite male dominance and power. It was my work that contributed largely to humanistic thought of that time.
Oh, okay. Wow, you must have been really popular. I could definitely see your big feminist movement and all the stuff you've contributed. Thank you so much for sharing your life with me.
Oh, anytime. I hope your psychology project goes well.
Thanks, Grandma.